Hi, my name is Dan Quigley from Jazz Music Institute, JMI. Today I'm going to be discussing a video about articulation and specifically jazz articulation. In this video we'll be looking at a range of articulations and how they apply to different tempos, and by the end of this video there'll be hopefully some tips for you to go and figure out how to do this yourself, and then how you can also help your students with finding this information themselves. Articulation could be considered the main element that differentiates the different styles of music, like classical music to jazz music to pop music. If we think of the development of music from the Renaissance music through Baroque, classical, Romantic, 20th century jazz, we've been dealing with the same notes and primarily the same rhythms and the same harmonies, but one thing that changes is the articulation, and we can document that over time. I think it's also important to think about articulation in the human context of the way we speak with our language. So we've got many different English-speaking countries, but we can identify someone of where they've come from by hearing the way that they're articulating their words. I can hear someone from Scotland or Ireland or from New Zealand or from America, purely just by the way they are articulating their words. However, we've got this, the alphabet hasn't changed and we all are using the same words. So for this fact, I do think that articulation is often overlooked and underrated in the jazz context, and also in other contexts as well. It is difficult to also have these articulations written down on a piece of paper, because not always, does a dot represent the correct phonetical sound that's going to happen. So here is the important fact, is that we need to listen to the music and hear how those articulations really happen. A few years ago, we were very fortunate to have the wonderful educator and piano player Reggie Thomas come out, and he was delivering a teachers' conference, and he opened up his address at the teachers' conference with a statement which I felt was really powerful and important to me at the time. And what he said was, "Jazz is a way to articulate music." The other thing I think is important to understand is that jazz is an oral art form. While it made sense to me what that meant, it took me a while to figure out what it actually was, or what it actually is. The way to look at it is that the way the notes are written down on a piece of paper are not always the way that they're played. And I remember Don Rader, who is a wonderful trumpet player, and he played with the Count Basie big band and in the 50s. And I remember asking him about his experience when he first got on the band, and he said well, he knew the music before he'd got on the band quite well because he'd been listening to the recordings. But he said that very first week that he was in the band, he said it was such a strange experience, because what he was reading and what was being played from the members in the band were two completely different things. So there was this, and he said that was the articulation of what they were playing was completely different. And so that really shows the depth of the level of articulation that is important in jazz. It's important to note that tempo will dictate the different types of articulations that happen as well. So, if something's slow or something's fast, sometimes, what might work at a slow tempo might not work at a fast tempo. And, a lot of this is not a hard and fast rule. I'm going to go through a few things now and then show you how you can look for these things yourself. Let's start with quarter notes. I think quarter notes are obviously a foundational rhythm, and we hear bass players doing them all the time, and that's walking bass lines. So they need to be able to articulate them in a way that's going to sound different to a classical person playing Vivaldi or something. So a good reference point here is to listen to Paul Chambers playing with the Red Garden Trio, Please Send Me Somebody to Love. And I've chosen that as a reference point for you just because of the tempo. It's a slow tempo. And the first phonetic I want you to start dealing with here is Duht'n, and it's spelled Duht'n. And what's interesting here with this Duht'n is that it's actually dealing with the quarter note and the triplet at the same time. So if we do that repeatedly, we hear Duht'n, 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 Duht'n. If I play that on the trumpet, just on one note, you'll hear that there's the triplet is being played as part of it, and there's also a bit of space in there to create that. Now that works at that tempo. At a different tempo, it does change, especially at fast tempos. Another good reference point to have a listen to for that is Harry Sweet's Edison on his solo on the song Did You Call Her Today? And you'll hear him play a bunch of high A flats, just pumping them out, and they just absolutely swinging, and they have that sound to it, and it's really, really cool. So if I just play a little bit more, if I do a walking bass line over a B-flat blues, just for the first 4 bars or so, and keeping that, you'll hear that that's helping the sound of jazz and the swing and the groove and all that happening as well. So hopefully that comes across and you're hearing that. And yeah, so start working on that. There's another academic resource for you if you want to get into this. There's a great book written by the drummer Ari Honig, and it's called Expansions and Contractions in Time. And this is, he talks about this in a very methodical way in the very first chapter. So something to check out. The next fundamental rhythm we're going to deal with is what we call the Charleston. And that one goes do-dut, do-dut. And we can spell that as D-O-O-D-U-H-T. It's a silent T at the end. You can hear do-dut, do-dut. If we make that T at the end really pronounced, do-dut, do-dut, it doesn't work. And that, I'll come back to the idea of language. We don't always pronounce those consonants so refinedly to get our message across. Some important reference points here for you to check out with this rhythm is the classic Miles Davis tune, So What? Now here's a really interesting thing about this one, is that the way it's written is just, dotted quarter note to an eighth note. But when it's played, you hear, there's these other nuances that come in within the articulation. And you have to listen to it and hear it before you can actually really pick it up. So here's a bit of So What, just the melody. And you hear that little bit of beat up. There's something else going on there. That's all part of it. You can also listen to the song written by Benny Golson called Killer Joe. But the Quincy Jones version from the album Walking in Space. And you hear that the way he's phrased the orchestration underneath that, there's beautiful doo-dut happening. So something to check out there. And that's another very fundamental, important rhythm to check out. The next rhythm we're going to check out is a 4-beat syncopation rhythm. Now we're going to start with this one with a pickup. So I'll do it a little slowly for you first, and it's this. Da-do-dit-dut-dut. That's it. So if I repeat that, da-do-dit-dut-dut, 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 da-do-dit-dut-dut. What's happening here is we've got the pickup da-do, and you've got da, D-A, to the do, and the do is the only downbeat that's happening. Now again, if I play through a B-flat blues progression, a few bars, and I just use that rhythm, you'll hear those different things. Now, I'll say it again, da-do-dit-da-da, da-do-dit-da-da. There's a few different phonetical sounds that are going on in there. You've got da, do, dit, dot. They're all completely different. So have a listen for those. Da, do, dit, dot, dot. One, Hopefully that comes across and you hear that. And just as a practice tool, you can just do that for a bunch of choruses on any tune you like. It's really good practice. All right, the next rhythm we're going to get into are eighth notes, slow eighth notes. The really good version to check out here for this is Clark Terry with Oscar Peterson on the song They Didn't Believe Me from the Oscar Peterson +1 album. Beautiful album, and you'll hear Clark just play these eighth notes just lovely. So with the eighth notes, it does get a little trickier, and this is where tempo really does change the level of articulation that's going to happen. So what I'll do here for you is maybe just play a scale first, and I'm going to put 2 beats on each note going up the scale. And with what the phonetic we're going to go work with on this is do da do da do da do da. So do, D-double-O, and then da is D-A-H. Do da do da do da. Now we can take this a little further, and as you can hear, the triplet is happening in there because of the tempo you can hear. And let's make it a bit more obvious. And I'm gonna spell out 3 notes, but the middle note, the line in the middle is going to be silent. Have a listen for that. And by doing that, you can hear that the do-da is a lot more obvious. And there's a great thing to practice on just scales, but also take that through improvising as well. So. So you can hear there's great ways to just practice these things slowly and get them really clear in your playing. So the next rhythm we're going to check out is eighth notes at a medium tempo. And the example I've chosen here is Charlie Parker's Now's the Time. And we're just going to look at the melody. So I'll play it first and then we'll sing it later. So we can hear from the beginning, da do da da do da, da do da dee da da. I sung it 2 different ways there, and this is where I think it's important that there's no one way to do it. What we have to do here is listen to the recording and find the best way around it. But we're hearing a very legato approach, but those accents are coming out. You know, I'm doing that through my tongue, and that's coming out on those certain parts of the rhythm there. So there's that one. The next rhythm we're going to check out, eighth notes at a faster tempo. And again, lots and lots of reference points for you to check out here. One reference point I would recommend is listening to Sonny Stitt playing the song Pennies from Heaven from Jazz at the Hi-Hat album. And you'll just hear him play just beautiful eighth note lines, melodic and rhythmic, but very articulate. And so what we're going to look at here is the habanero rhythm and how that applies to the eighth note line. Now the habanero rhythm is just the first bar of a clave. It is boom, 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 boom. And that rhythm has come, the West African slaves, when they got brought over, they got taken down through South America, they picked up that rhythm and they brought that rhythm up to North America. So if we play our scales and we put that rhythm, we accent that rhythm within our scale, I'll do it slowly first, you'll hear it, how it happens. You can hear, if you really listen closely, I'm playing very straight. They're not swung rhythms, but the habanero is accented. So if I do that a little quicker, you can hear it starts to swing along a little bit more. It is on the scale, but if I play over a tune and accent that out, you'll hear it coming out a whole lot more. So you can hear a lot of those rhythms are actually quite straight, but the accenting of the habanero underneath it is helping promote the swing, and also the level of legato in the playing is huge. It's very legato. So these are important things to check out, and I think it's these are the things that you get from really transcribing people. So when you're listening to players and really getting into their playing, they're the things you're going to hear a lot. Another fantastic version of fast eighth notes being played very well is from the same album I mentioned before, the Oscar Peterson with Clark Terry album, and there's a Squeaky's Blues. Check out that. I mean, you've got Oscar Peterson, beautiful, and then Clark Terry is also playing really, really quick eighth notes, but so well articulated and really swings along a lot. So as this is a phonetic to sound concept, you can find your own ways to do this. There is no one way to do it, and I think what's important if you're using this for yourself or if you're using this for your students is that you need to listen to music, you need to listen to music, and you need to find the phonetic as close as possible that you wish to use that's going to get the particular sound out. And that is a really important part of the process. And this is what I mentioned earlier, this is what makes jazz an oral art form, is that we need to be able to hear it in order to be able to play it, because if you're not hearing it and hear how it sounds, you're not going to get close to authentic sound through that. So it's important to do that. So while I've mentioned and I've given a few examples here, you can find your own, and it doesn't matter if they're different to mine. And if you look at different books, different textbooks, sometimes different authors will have something different to the next person. And this can be confusing, but I think hopefully this helps and makes a bit more sense for you, is that it's just somebody trying to emulate what they're hearing and they're getting it close as possible. It's easy to argue over semantics, but I think the whole point of it is to what is the end goal here. And so from what one person says or from what I'm saying, the end goal is that we want to get an idea of what articulation is in the jazz context and how to do it. Dr. Anita Collins has been researching for a couple of decades now the effects of music on the brain. And one thing she's discovered over this time is that we need to hear it, sing it, and play it. And this is something that she's found has been one of the most beneficial approaches to teaching children music of any genre. And it's important to understand that this is exactly what we are doing here. We need to be able to hear it, sing it, then play it. So what is really cool is that all this research that is coming out applies exactly to the same context and scenario that we've got here today. All right, well, that's all I've got for you for this video. I hope you've enjoyed it and hope you've got something out of it. Please leave a comment and ask any questions if you have. Thank you.